Hey, it's Sabrina. So in this video, I thought I would share with you my favorite sociology books. So if you didn't know, I got my degree in sociology, and along the way, I read quite a few sociology books and texts. So I just kind of want to share with you my favorite books that I read. So let's get started. So I have here 6 books that I kind of want to talk about. They're in no particular order. I kind of enjoyed all of them. They're not ranked in a specific order, so let's just go and talk about them. So the first book I want to talk about is Explorations in Diversity, Examining Privilege and Oppression in a Multicultural Society. So I have quite a few of these books that I'm going to be talking about. However, I couldn't find them all. So I'm just going to insert pictures so you can get a good look of what it looks like. But this book I really enjoyed because I myself, still a Latina woman, you would think that I would be classified as a person who would come with less privilege and be someone who kind of struggles in life. And although I grew up really poor with a single parent, I feel like although I wasn't maybe handed some privilege like maybe my husband who is a white male, I still didn't feel like I was oppressed. But this book is really fantastic because it actually has stories about people with white privilege and how they recognize it and how they see that it is greatly improved the quality of their life, and how they recognize that white privilege somewhat exists, and that people of color, or especially women of color, kind of have more struggles than they do. So I thought that that was a really great book. The next book that I'm going to talk about is The New Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander, I think. This book really made an impact on me. I read it about, I want to say like 2 years ago. No, it'd be more than that, 3 years ago, because I graduated from college 2 years ago. So it's probably 3 years ago I read this book, and it still has a lasting impact on me. It talks, because I actually did a whole entire essay on this for another class, and what this book talks about is mass incarceration and how our society profiles Black males specifically, and how mass incarceration is an issue that perpetuates crime and perpetuates a low income. And so I just thought that this was so eye-opening, because it's so interesting how you think that our society feels like it's evolved or progressed because we're accepting, or we're okay with homosexuality, and we're okay with transgenderism, and all these issues are coming to light that maybe 50 years ago wouldn't have been as accepted as they are now. And still to this day, we are struggling with racial profiling and racism in general. And so I thought it was very, very interesting, and I would recommend it if you're curious about, if you just want to read a book on race. I thought it was good. So this next book is actually kind of different. It doesn't talk about race at all, but it's Shop Class as Soulcraft. I don't know who the author is. Like I said, I'll put a picture of it here. And this book talks about how blue collar work and manual labor is not as valued in our society today, and how it's kind of a dying craft, I guess you could call it. And I thought it was also interesting because I feel like in today's society, it's extremely rare, or really rare, to find a man who is really handy and can fix things. And we put a focus on men being more intelligent than being on handy. And there's a lot of people who can't find jobs because they are trained in blue collar work, and it's just not as, it's a job that's not as readily available as it used to. Everything's switching to online and the internet, and people, the men and women, are going and getting degrees that are more focused on media and technology than it is focused on like electricians and construction workers and stuff like that. And so basically the value of blue collar work is declining. 50 years ago, they were great jobs and they were really well paid. And today, now with the society moving more towards education and all of that, it's kind of changed and shifted a little bit in the workforce. And so I think it's a really interesting book. And if you're curious, I would recommend it. Okay, so this next book is one that I'm thinking about rereading because I don't remember a lot of it, but it was still a very good book. And this is Sister Citizen by Melissa Harris Perry, right? Yeah. And she, if you don't know who she is actually a very well-known African-American woman in the political scene. She this book is about shame and stereotypes within the African American community and how that affects their view on politics. And so I would like to read a little excerpt about what this is about so you can get a better idea. In this groundbreaking book, Melissa Harris Perry uses multiple methods of inquiry, including literary analysis, political theory, focus groups, surveys, and experimental research to understand more deeply Black women's political and emotional responsive to pervasive negative race and gender images. So I feel like that's a great way to sum up this book. It is so interesting because, to me specifically, because I've always been really interested in like history and politics and how like our society got where it is now. And so seeing the political side of this issue. But anyway, so I just really liked that this book talked about these issues in a more political way and in a political lens, because I feel like in general, a lot of these issues are more based around stereotypes and just negative things. And I don't know, I really like this book. I would recommend it. Okay, so this last book that I'm going to talk about is another one about race, but I feel like it greatly impacted me because I feel like I could relate. And this is The Souls of Black Folk by Du Bois, W.E. Du Bois. And this actually talks about Black people, but I mean, you could kind of widen it to colored people and how they are affected by discrimination and getting into college and academia. So I think W.E. Du Bois was a professor, I want to say, and he kind of talked about how race affected his life and how his struggle to get into the academic world and getting into college and all these things and how it affected him. And me being a person of color and really highly valuing education, I am actually a first generation college student. I was the first in my whole entire family to get my degree, and I really value that. And I think that there are not enough people of color getting their degree. And so I felt like I could really relate to this. It was just such a great read. And even though it was written a while ago, I still feel like it's pretty relevant to today's society. So those are all the books that I love that are from a sociological perspective. If you're at all interested in like social issues or anything like that, then I would highly recommend picking up some of these books. There's still a ton that I have not read, but I feel like just with things that are going on lately, and because it's been a while since I've graduated college, you know, I want to keep up on the issues and make sure that I'm not forgetting anything. And so I plan on rereading a lot of these. But if you're not subscribed to my channel, please do. I'd really appreciate it. And I will talk to you very, very soon. And of course, thanks for watching. Question number 6 is, what is your overall favorite thing about BookTube? And I would just say that my favorite thing is I love how